Ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels when you study? Like your learning habits aren't really cutting it? Well, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to completely transform how you learn, and we're going to do it by mastering the art of rapid learning.
So here's what we're going to tackle. First, we're going to bust some major myths about learning that are probably holding you back. Then we'll dive into a big idea called the active learning shift. From there, we'll get into the practical stuff, techniques that actually work. And we'll wrap it all up by building a simple study system you can start using tonight. All right, let's kick things off with what I call the myth of learning. We're going to talk about why those old study habits, the ones most of us were taught in school, are just so surprisingly inefficient. I mean, we've all been there, right? You put in a whole evening, your nose is in a book, you feel super productive, and then you wake up the next morning and it's all just gone. That frustration, it's totally real. But here's the thing, it's a huge sign that the problem isn't you, it's your methods. And this right here is the heart of the problem. We were basically taught to be information sponges, but these passive methods like rereading a chapter 5 times or covering a page in highlighter, they create what's called an illusion of knowing. Your brain recognizes the material, but it hasn't actually learned it. It's kind of like watching someone else lift weights and expecting to get stronger yourself. So this is the big shift we need to make. See, passive study is just letting information wash over you. But active study, that forces your brain to actually do something with it, to recall it, to test yourself on it, to explain it. It's a completely different ballgame. And get this, look at how most students actually spend their time. A whopping 80%, 80, is spent on the least effective stuff, rereading and highlighting. Only this tiny little sliver is spent on the active practice that actually builds lasting memory. We've got it completely backward. It's wild when you see it laid out like this. Okay, so how do we fix this? Well, it all starts with a simple change in mindset. And that brings us to our second section, the active learning shift. This is all about going from being a passive consumer of information to an active creator of knowledge. This quote just nails it. Learning isn't like downloading a file into your brain. It's about wrestling with ideas, connecting them to things you already know, trying to rephrase them in your own words. It's an active process. And yeah, sometimes it feels a little bit difficult. That's a good thing. And here's the cool, simple science behind why this works. Every single time you actively pull a piece of information from your memory, you make its neural pathway stronger. Think of it like walking through a grassy field. The first time, you barely make a path. But the more you walk it, the clearer and more permanent that path becomes. Rereading just doesn't create that path. Okay, theory is great, but let's get our hands dirty. In this third section, we're going to build your new toolkit. We're talking powerful, practical techniques you can literally start using the second this is over. First up is the heavyweight champion of learning, active recall. It's simple. Instead of just reading something over and over, you force your brain to recall it from scratch. Psychologists actually call this the testing effect, because the very act of testing yourself is what builds the memory. It feels harder, for sure, but it is so much more effective. So how do you actually do it? It's dead simple. Step 1, study a concept, read a paragraph, whatever. Step 2, and this is the most important, non-negotiable part, close the book, look away from the screen. Then step 3, try to explain the concept out loud, to yourself, to your dog, to the wall, it doesn't matter. And finally, step 4, check your work. What'd you miss? This little process instantly shows you what you actually know versus what you just kind of recognized.
All right, the second tool for our toolkit is spaced repetition. Here's the deal. Our brains are designed to forget stuff we don't use. It's called the forgetting curve. Well, spaced repetition is the perfect counterattack. You review information right around the time you're about to forget it, and that sends a powerful signal to your brain that says, hey, this is important. Keep this around.
So what does this look like in practice? Well, here's a pretty good example. After you learn something new, you might review it a day later. Then again, maybe 3 days later. Then a week later, and so on. By strategically spacing out your reviews like this, you push that knowledge deep into your long-term memory, and you do it with way less effort. Okay, now for the grand finale. This is where we put it all together. We've got the mindset, we've got the techniques, let's combine them into a simple, actionable system, a blueprint you can use every single time you sit down to learn something new. And before we see the blueprint, you have to get this into your head. A great study session is not about how many hours you put in. It's about the structure you use. I promise you, a focused, structured 45-minute session will beat a 4-hour, unstructured, passive marathon any day of the week. It's all about working smarter, not longer.
And here it is, your 4-step study blueprint. Step 1, just 2 minutes to preview. Skim the material, see what's coming, create a little mental map. Step 2, a 25-minute block of focused, active study using active recall. Step 3, a 10-minute review session using spaced repetition to hit on some older concepts. And finally, Step 4, just 5 minutes to test yourself. Try some practice questions without your notes. This simple, repeatable cycle is the absolute key.
So let's just boil it all down, right? First, and I mean it, ditch the passive habits like rereading and highlighting. They're a waste of your precious time. Second, embrace active recall. Make it your go-to tool for building strong memories. Third, use spaced repetition to make sure that knowledge sticks around for the long haul. And finally, put it all together in a consistent, structured system. You know, the beautiful thing about this system is that it works for pretty much anything. A new language, a programming skill, an instrument, you name it. The methods are universal. So now that you have the tools, the only real question left is, what are you going to master first?